When investors reach out to you, you know the North Carolina market very well. Tell me a little bit more about the market where you're at. I believe you're not in Charlotte. You're a little bit north of Charlotte. Tell me a little bit more about that area. Do properties cash flow? Is there a strong demand for single families? What's the vacancy rate like? What's the unemployment like? And is this a region that you recommend for out-of-state investors?
Yes, this is a fully loaded question. So, Charlotte is currently ranked as the number one market for 2023 in the whole country. Everyone is coming here to try and find property to make a buck on. What happens though is I'm a part of a bunch of Charlotte real estate groups here. It's very difficult to find deals if you're an investor. The way to find a really good deal is to find what's called an off market property. This is something that you hear through word of mouth, or you're on a specific list, or you know certain people, or you're in certain groups. That's who has the off market properties. These are your discounted properties where you can pick them up as an investor very cheaply, fix them up, and typically flip them for more money. Or you can use what's called a burst strategy, which is when you buy something, you renovate it, you then rent it out, you do a refinance and get the money back out of it. People use that strategy as well. The key is you make your money when you buy it. So if you can find an off market property and it's at a discounted price, you're going to make money. There's just hardly any of those right now. They are far and few between. On market properties are those that you see on Zillow and on Trillia, things like that, where they're listed on the MLS. They're on the market. They're being marketed. Those typically are not deals. They are very hard to find. So in Charlotte, good luck finding something on the market. You have to know people and be in the right places to get a deal. And that's Charlotte. Charlotte's growing. Most people are coming from the north, specifically New York, Newark, and New Jersey are the top three places people are moving into Charlotte from. It's booming. There's apartment buildings going up absolutely everywhere. All of the rent is going up. The national average for appreciation is 4% overall for 2023. Granted, some areas were overinflated and will go down in 2023. Charlotte is one of those areas that will still potentially experience double-digit appreciation in 2023. There's just so many people coming here. There's jobs, companies coming in. It is absolutely booming. The same can be said for Raleigh, another top 10, maybe arguably top 5 market in the country. People have figured out North Carolina has great weather, great location geographically, mountains, beach, and it's still priced at a point that was undervalued. So it just is now at a point where North Carolina properties are starting to tick up because more people are coming in. They figured out, hey, I can get a lot of bang for my buck if I move to the Carolinas. It's cheap property. People in New York are like, I can pay $900,000 or $1 million and get a McMansion down here compared to what they would get in New York. It's a game changer. Same if you're coming from California and you come here. And then with remote work, people are just coming here and grabbing up properties. You got everything you need here in terms of amenities too. So it's absolutely booming. South Carolina has extremely low taxes. So even South Carolina is doing great. They have an incentive for veterans who want to come to South Carolina. They are basically giving people money to move to South Carolina. If you're a veteran, you've got beautiful beaches there too. Myrtle Beach area is absolutely booming for snowbirds and people who want warmer weather from the north. Man, it's just crazy here in North and South Carolina right now. Just two of the hottest markets you can think of.
That's amazing. Yeah. And Zach, where can investors find some of those off-market properties? Let's say if I'm out of state, like, can you help me find some deals and maybe help with wholesaling? Or like, is there any other way that I can find, was it bank-owned properties or anything else that is accessible to somebody who is not local and can't drive for dollars or do something similar?
I'm so glad you mentioned drive for dollars. So yes. All right. Wholesaling. For those who don't know, wholesaling is where you find a property and convince a homeowner to sell you the property. So you sign a contract with the homeowner and you say, hey, I'm going to buy your property, or the key here, or I would like to assign this property to someone else if I cannot buy it. The assignment piece is where you give that contract to someone else for a fee. You do not need a license to do this, but it's called wholesaling. The trick here is you need to be able to have these skills to find homeowners who want to sell you their property. And you can create your own off-market deals by doing that. There are strategies. I teach it. I have a website called thehomebuyerleague.com. We'll dig some more into that, but you can learn how to wholesale all over the internet. There are strategies on how you can find these properties. So that is one way. A tactic is called driving for dollars, where you literally drive around and find these properties that you call the homeowners on. So that's driving for dollars. There's other ways you can pull lists of properties that are most likely to have an absentee owner, or to be vacant, or that someone just passed or got a divorce. You can pull lists on those properties, and then you just call them one after the other until you find someone willing to sell. So there's a couple different strategies for doing wholesaling. You can make a good chunk of change wholesaling. However, 95% of wholesalers don't quite do well or even make any money. You have to really stick to it and follow up. So there's a lot that goes into it. It sounds easier than it is. It can be done. I've done it. It does do very well, because you don't need any money to really do it. So that is one strategy. Joining the real estate groups, so investment groups. The only thing with that is, as soon as a deal goes up, especially in Charlotte, that deal's got 20 comments within the first 30 minutes. Everyone jumps on it. It's very competitive right now. If you've got cash, then go for it. That's one place to be, is in the groups. Some people may miss it. You might grab one. There are wholesaler groups where wholesalers list properties. That's another good one. It's wholesaler groups. There's meetups as well. I go to a couple investment meetups, and when you go, people have the opportunity to show deals at the very beginning or end of the meetings. Someone will say, "Hey, I've got this multifamily property, this amount, this location. Here's the sheet of everything you need to know." So that's another place to get off-market deals as well. Finding realtors who work with investors exclusively. So they sometimes have wholesalers in their pocket who will send them deals. There's also something called pocket deals. This is where there's a team of realtors, and one of their sellers comes to them and says, "Hey, I want to sell my house." They will sell the house internally amongst the realtor group. And so they don't put it on the market. So only the clients of those realtors get that deal first. So that's another good way, is to get in with realtors that specifically work with investors. Those are probably the top ways to find off-market deals. You have auctions. Those are optional. It used to be a really good thing. They're more competitive now. But that's not to say you can't still find a good deal. You mentioned foreclosures. Those are slowly coming back. Also very competitive. We also call them REOs. They're bank-owned properties. So those are optional. I don't know too much about. I've never done an auction myself personally, so I can't really speak to it.
Yeah, I mean, with the auctions, we've been to a few auctions in Wausau. That's one of the places where me and my business partners do some investing in single families. And auctions are hit and miss. It's funny you mentioned them being very competitive. There was one property that we were actually like bidding on, but it was crazy. There were like 8 different people bidding. Like, we prepared, obviously, before we went to the auction. We got a deed search and a title search and lien search, all this stuff done. And then we had our max bid sort of prepped before we went to the auction. And there were like eight or nine different bidders who all got it. And they bid up the price, something like almost twice. It sold for almost twice what our max bid was going to be.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was crazy. And this other time, the second time we went to an auction in Wausau, what happened was same thing. Like, we do all the background search, and, every time you do a lien search, you got to pay, like a law firm, a couple $100 to do it, blah, blah, blah. And we do all our forecasts and our financial models. And we went, and it got pulled the day of. Like, it didn't even go to auction. So the night before, it was like, yeah, this property going up for auction at 9 a.m. The steps of the county courthouse. We show up at 9 a.m. Like, something happened between that day and the day before, and maybe somebody bought it, or somebody settled with the bank or something, but it never went up for auction. So you got to be patient. It's hit or miss.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. You did all that prep work. I'll have some hearsay for you. I was at a baby shower of all random places and ran into a guy there. He's in software. He's a software engineer. So obviously he built an algorithm that could pull all the auction properties and find the best ones. And he did it around 2012, 2013, when properties started coming back from the crash. And he's got 18 properties now. I believe they're almost all paid off. He said we were going in just racking up these auction properties for years, him and his wife. His wife's a real estate agent. Yeah, they just cleaned house. But the thing he told me is, he said, yeah, I got out of it a couple of years ago. It just got to a point where there were no really good deals anymore. It started to get really competitive. People figured it out, and it was just really hard and not worth my time to really hunt down a good auction deal. So he's like, I got out of it. But that's not to say in the future, depending on the area, that won't come back and be a thing based on where you are.
And Zach, a few minutes ago, you mentioned joining a local real estate group. How can people find out about local real estate groups? What's the best way to reach out to them and to find out when they meet, how you can join, et cetera?
There are some you have to pay for. So you can just look up, put in your city and real estate group, and there's some professional ones you can join that have fees. I like the free ones that are usually put on by realtors or put on by wholesalers or put on by mortgage lenders because they're trying to network, they're trying to do deals, and they want people in the group who are also trying to do deals, who are bringing something to the table. So I like those the best. You can go to meetup.com and search for real estate groups or investor groups in the area. But the easiest is to go to Facebook, type in your town or the town you want, an investor group. And I'm in a couple, depending on the state: Georgia, North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. And when deals or people post things, you can see what's going on in the area. You hear things, you see the same people. And if you put yourself out there enough, people will notice your face and you want to hear your feedback. So they're a great place to drum up business, meet people. So Facebook's, I would say, the number one place for doing that.